line up, add up, move it, lose it, and I'll explain what that means in a minute, but for right now, if you'll just write it down, line up, add up, move it, lose it, and we're always going to move the smaller number. So if you will write this stuff down on your paper, always move the smaller number. So you may already know how to do these problems, and if you do, that's fabulous. If you don't know how to do them, I'm going to show you a method that I really like. I think it's really helpful to do. So on number 1, I'm going to draw a chart is how I do these. I draw a negative, positive chart. So if you'll just do this for the first few, and like I said, if you have a different way to do it, that's fine, but if you'll do it my way for the first couple, just so you can see this method. Okay, so you're going to draw a negative, positive chart, and I'll look at 3, and I have to make a decision about 3. Is 3 a negative number or a positive number? Negative. So you put 3 over here, but don't put a negative sign with it. It's on the negative side, so that's good enough. Don't put a negative sign with it. Negative 3 minus 6. Minus 6 is the same thing as 6 being negative. It's the same thing as 6 being negative. So we're going to put 6 on the negative side as well. Don't put a negative with it, though. If they line up, so if they're on the same side, if they line up, I want you to add them. So if they line up, you add up. So what is 3 plus 6? 9. And then you look and see what side it's on. What side is the 9 on, the negative or the positive? So your answer is negative 9. So you do have to put a negative with your answer at the end. Put a negative 9. Okay? All right, number 2, we're going to try the chart again, just so you can get a feel for it. So you got a negative, positive chart. All right, do we think 8 is positive or negative? Negative, so it goes on the negative side. Don't put a negative in front of it. Just put an 8, just regular old 8. Minus 5 is the same thing as 5 being negative. So I'll put a 5 over here. Same thing as having a negative 5. Do those line up? Yes. So line up, what? Add up. So 8 and 5 add up to 13. What side is the 13 on? Negative. So you have to put a negative with your answer. Okay? All right, let's try number 3, a negative, positive chart for that one. All right, do we think 2 is positive or negative? 2 is positive. You look in front. 2 is just positive, so 2 goes on the positive side. Minus 9 is the same thing as having a negative 9, so 9 goes on the negative side. Don't put a sign with it, just on the negative side. Do those line up? No, so we have to go to the next direction. This one we're going to have to move it, lose it. Move it, lose it. You always move the smaller number. Which one of these is smaller? So you move the 2, move it, lose it. What do you think I mean by lose it? Subtract, good. So 9 take away 2 is, and it's on the negative side, so it's negative 7. Negative 7. All right, number 4, negative and positive. All right, is 9 negative or positive? Negative, so it goes on the negative side. Is 6 negative or positive? Okay. All right, what are we going to have to do when they're on different sides? Good. Move it, lose it. So which number moves? Yep. Why does the 6 move? Because it's smaller, and so you subtract. Whenever you move it, you subtract. So 9 minus 6 is, what side is it on? So you have to put a negative with your answer. All right, number 5, 11 minus 7. I know it doesn't need a chart. Some of y'all can do that one in your head. That's fine, but I just want to, again, practice the chart just to Give you another example. Is 11 positive or negative? Positive. What about the 7? Negative. Minus 7 is the same thing as it being negative. All right? Which one would move? Why? And what do you do with 11 and 7? Move it, lose it. So you have to subtract, which gives you 4. Positive 4. Positive 4. Okay. All right, I'm going to call on people to help me with this next one. All right, Ashley, where would the 3 go on what side? Good. And the other Ashley, where would the 15 go? Good. Summer, what would you do next? Very good. And Devin, what would your final answer be? Close. Negative 12. Final answer would be negative 12. Okay. Anybody have a question on those? Okay. All right, the next thing I want you to write on your paper, you can put the symbols if you don't feel like writing the words. A positive times a positive. So write this down on your paper so you have these to look at. A positive times a positive is a positive. Again, feel free to use the symbols if you don't want to write the words. A negative times a negative. Very good. And a positive times a negative. Good. Okay. So if the signs are the same, so a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. If the signs are the same, you're going to end up with a positive. If they're different, you're going to end up with a negative. Okay? All right, so let's just kind of jump into these. So number 1, Abby, negative 2 times 6. What would that give you? A negative or a positive? And then 2 times 6? Very good. So you get negative 12 as your answer. Okay. Number 2, Destiny, negative 3 times negative 7. Very good. Positive or negative? Very good. Positive 21 because it was a negative times a negative. Okay. Andrew, 5 times 9. Very good. All right, number 4, Molly, negative 8 times 4. Very good. Negative 32. Negative times positive is a negative. Okay. Mr. Hairston, negative 6 times negative 2. So positive or negative? Positive 12. Negative times a negative. Positive 12. Okay. And Odin, 10 times negative 2. Good. Positive times negative is a negative. Okay. Any questions on those? Okay. Now we're going to do multiplication a little bit longer. So parentheses mean to multiply. Parentheses mean to multiply. So we're going to do 43 times 8. So 43 times 8. All right, so let's start here. 3 times 8. Anybody? 3 times 8. So I'll put a 4 here and a 2 here. 4 times 8. Anybody? 32, but don't forget to add your 2 up here. So what's 32 plus 2? 34. So your answer is 344. Okay. All right, let's try another one. 1,760 times 2. All right, so I start with 0 times 2. Anybody? 0. 6 times 2. Good, so I put a 2 here and my 1 here. 7 times 2. Don't forget to add your 1, which would give you And 1 times 2 plus 1? Good. How would you say that number? Very good. Okay. All right, number 3, we're going to add in a decimal. When you multiply with decimals, nothing changes but your answer. When you multiply with a decimal, nothing changes but your answer. Okay? So, ignore it for now. Just do it regular. 0 times 4 is 8 times 4. So I put my 3 up here. 2 times 4 plus 3. And 5 times 4 plus the 1. Now, you had one decimal place in your problem. So you have to put one decimal place in your answer. That's really important. So your answer is going to be 2,112. 2,112. You have to put the decimal back in your answer. Okay. All right, number 4. 523 times 0.47. All right, Devin, 3 times 7. Good. So I put a 1 here and a 2 here. Summer, 2 times 7 plus 2. And Ashley Brown, 5 times 7. Plus 1 is. Okay. When you are multiplying by a 2-digit number, you have to hold your place. You have to hold your place on the next row. Okay, that's the biggest mistake that people make that they forget about. You've got to hold your place on the next row. So put a 0 here to hold your place. All right. All right, Caitlin, now we're going to do everything times 4. So 3 times 4. So I put a 2 here. And I'll mark these out. Put a 1. Abby, 2 times 4. Plus the 1 gives us 9. And Mateen, 5 times 4. Did I say it right? Good. Okay. Andrew, do you remember what you do with these? Well, we'll do that in the answer. What do I just do with these two numbers? Add them. So that gives me 1, 8, 15. Okay. So you got 2 decimal places. That's what Andrew was saying right here. So we have to put 2 in our answer. You got to go over 2 places in your answer. 245.81. Okay. Anybody have a question? All right. 163.87. 163.87. All right, Molly, 3 times 7. Steven, 6 times 7. $42, close. Plus 2 would give us 44. Tyler. 1 times 7 is 7, plus 4 gives us 11. Tyler, go ahead and get out some paper. All right, guys, what do I have to do before I start this next row? Good. Put a 0. Put a 0. Okay. All right, Destiny, 3 times 8. Very good. And Odin, 6 times 8. $48. Close. Plus 2 would give us 50. And Ashley, what's your last name? I'm sorry. Claire. What is 1 times 8 plus the 5? 13. Good. Okay. And then I have to add these. So I get 1, 8, 1, 4, and 1. Okay. Ashley Brown, is this my final answer? How many decimal places do I go? 2. So 141.81. Anybody have a question on that one? Okay, this one, I'm multiplying because there's parentheses. Which number do I have to write on top? Which number do you write on top? Yeah, why do you write the 6.252 on top? Because it's longer, yep. Yeah, all right. So 6.252 times 3, right? All right, let's do this one as a class. 2 times 3, 5 times 3, 2 times 3, plus 1, and 6 times 3. Caitlin, is that my final answer? How many decimal places do I have to go? All right, so let's look. How many are here? So I have to do 3 here. It's however many were in the original problem. Okay? All right, last slide. Last slide. Number 7, 320 divided by 4. 320 divided by 4. How are we going to do that? How are we going to divide 320 by 4? What are we going to have to do? What's it called? Yeah! Long division. Everybody's favorite. Everybody's favorite. So 4 into 320 is how you're going to write it. Okay? So here's how we start. Does 4 go into 3? Does 4 go into 32? So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. How many times? 8. Okay? Okay, then we multiply. What's 4 times 8? And then we subtract. 32 take away 32 is 0. And you drop down this 0. Does 4 go into, how many times does 4 go into 0? So you put a 0 here. So your answer is 80. Your answer is 80. Okay. All right, let's do 6 into 354. 6 into 354. All right, Mateen, will 6 go into 3? No. Mr. Hairston, will 6 go into 35? Yes. Andrew, how many times will 6 go into 35? It won't go in evenly. Yep. 5. Odin, what do I do with this 6 and 5? Yep, which gives me 30. Ashley Brown, what do I do with 35 and 30? Which gives me 5. Tyler, what do you have to do with this 4? Very good. And Summer, 6 into 54, kind of putting you on the spot. Oh, 9. Sorry, I didn't know what you were asking. All right, goes in 9. 6 times 9 is 54, so your answer is 59. Okay. All right, this next one you have a decimal, 2.5 into 2,000. So you can multiply with decimals. That's what we were doing on that last thing. We were multiplying by decimals. You cannot divide decimals. You cannot divide decimals. You have to get rid of it before you can divide it. So you've got to get rid of your decimal. So to get rid of it, you move it over there. So 2.5 would turn into what number? 25. So I'm going to write it right here just so it looks a little neater. If you move it here, you also have to move it inside. And it was imaginary. Your imaginary decimal was right there. What do you think I'm putting in this empty spot? Very good. So this number turns into 20,000 is what it turns into. Okay, this looks hard. It's actually not. Does 25 go into 2? Does 25 go into 20? Does 25 go into 200? Okay, now don't say it. Let's let everybody think. 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175, 200. So how many? 8. Okay. What's 25 times 8? We just did it. 200. Subtract those, bring this one down. Does 25 go into 0? So what do I have to put? A 0. 25 times 0 is 0. And you have to go all the way to the end of the problem. So 25 goes into 0, 0. Go all the way to the end, so you get 800. Okay, last one. 150 divided by 60. All right, look what happens on this last one. Does 60 go into 1? Does 60 go into 15? 60 into 150. 60, 120, 180. Does it go into 150 evenly? No. So that's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. Instead, what I want you to do is just reduce it. That's what they want you to do on the exam. They just want you to reduce it. What goes into 150 and 60? 10, good. How many times does 10 go into 150? How many times does 10 go into 60? 6. Will this reduce one more time? What goes into 15 and 6? 3. How many times does 3 go into 15? How many times does 3 go into 6? 2. So your final answer that they want is 5/2. That will be counted right. 5/2. So reduce, reduce, reduce.